Once upon a time, in a small village, there lived a girl named Tope. She was just like any other girl in the village, but deep inside, she knew she was destined for more. Tope's days were filled with hard work, helping her mother sell yams in the market and fetching water from the stream. Though life was tough, she never complained. One fateful day, as she walked to the market, something unusual happened that would change her life forever. Tope's life seemed ordinary, but her mind was always racing with dreams bigger than the small village she called home. Every morning, as she went about her chores, she wondered if she'd ever leave the village and experience the world beyond the hills. She wasn't like the other girls in the village who only dreamt of marriage. Tope wanted more. She wanted to make a difference. One day, while at the stream fetching water, she heard whispers from the other villagers. They spoke of a grand event happening in the Iragbiji kingdom. The royal family was looking for a new queen for their son, Prince Adewale. The news spread like wildfire, and girls from neighboring villages were already preparing themselves, hoping to catch the prince's attention. Tope listened silently, not giving it much thought. After all, she was just a simple girl from a small village with no riches or status. Yet, deep inside her heart, a spark of curiosity lit up. Later that evening, as Tope sat under the moonlight with her parents, she noticed something strange. For days, royal messengers had been passing through the village, but tonight they stopped. As they approached Tope's family home, her heart raced. One of the messengers, a tall man with a stern face, handed her father a sealed letter. With trembling hands, her father opened it. His eyes widened as he read the message. "Tope, the prince has requested your presence at the royal palace." Tope could hardly believe her ears. She stared at her father in shock, then looked down at her worn dress and bare feet. Why would the prince request her presence? She wasn't like the other girls who had been groomed and trained for palace life. Her thoughts raced, but her father's voice brought her back to reality. "Tope, this is a rare opportunity. The prince must have seen something special in you. You have to go to the palace." Her mother nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. "My daughter, this might be your chance. The gods have something great planned for you." The next morning, the village buzzed with excitement as news spread that Tope was to visit the royal palace. Some villagers were supportive, while others doubted she could ever be a match for the prince. Tope, however, remained quiet, her mind focused on the unknown journey ahead. With her few belongings packed and wearing the finest dress her mother could afford, Tope set off with the royal messengers. As they traveled, her heart pounded with both fear and excitement. She had never been outside her village, and the grandeur of the palace felt like a dream. When they finally arrived at the palace gates, Tope's eyes widened in awe. The palace was massive, with tall pillars, golden carvings, and the royal crest proudly displayed. She felt out of place, but held her head high, determined to prove that even a village girl like her could be worthy. Inside, she was led through corridors, decorated with beautiful art and rich fabrics, until she finally stood before Prince Adewale. He was even more regal than she had imagined, dressed in a tailored agbada with intricate gold embroidery. His gaze was steady, and he seemed to be assessing her carefully. "Tope," he said softly, "I have heard much about you." The moment the royal messengers left, whispers began spreading throughout the village. "Tope? The prince chose Tope?" Many of the villagers couldn't believe it. Some sneered while others openly doubted her worthiness. Tope's childhood friend, Yemisi, who always saw herself as more refined, approached her later that evening, her face twisted in jealousy. "Why would the prince send for you, Tope? What makes you special?" Yemisi hissed. "You don't even belong in that world. It's just a mistake. You'll embarrass yourself and us." Tope's heart sank, but she tried to keep her head up. The doubts didn't stop there. Even within her own family, there were murmurs. Her uncle, Uncle Sola, a proud man, openly scoffed at the idea. Royal Palace? Tope, you're dreaming if you think you can fit in there. You'll never be one of them. You're just a village girl who sells yams in the market. Don't waste your time chasing things that aren't for you. Her father, though supportive, remained silent, caught between his pride for his daughter and the harsh reality that she was stepping into a world they knew nothing about. Tope felt the weight of the village's disapproval pressing down on her. The people who should have supported her were the ones tearing her down. But deep within her, Tope refused to give up. She knew that this was her chance to prove that one's background didn't define their future. With a determined heart, she prepared for her journey to the palace. As Tope entered the palace, the grandeur around her only added to her anxiety. She was led into a large, opulent room where Prince Adewale sat, surrounded by royal advisors and his parents, King Adebayo and Queen Ronke. The queen, in particular, eyed her with suspicion. Dressed in a luxurious modern gown with royal beads, the queen didn't even attempt to hide her disapproval. "This is the girl the prince has chosen?" she whispered loudly to one of the advisors, her sharp eyes scanning Tope from head to toe. Tope stood nervously, feeling every critical stare. The royal advisors whispered among themselves, clearly unconvinced that she could be the future queen. But the worst came from Lady Funmi, a noble woman who had long desired to marry Prince Adewale. She stepped forward, her elegant gown sweeping the floor. "Your Highness," Lady Funmi began, her voice smooth but filled with venom. How could someone like her, someone from a small village, possibly understand what it takes to be queen? She doesn't belong here. She is beneath us. Tope felt her cheeks burn with shame, but she held her head high. Prince Adewale stood silently, observing the scene, but not intervening. The silence in the room grew heavy. Just as Tope felt the walls closing in on her, something inside her snapped. She straightened her back, looking directly at Lady Funmi. "I may be from a village," she said boldly, "but I have a heart full of dreams and the strength to make them come true. I didn't ask to be here, but if I'm given a chance, I won't back down from showing everyone who I really am." Her words hung in the air, surprising everyone. Even Prince Adewale was surprised. He had expected Tope to cower under the pressure, but instead, she had shown incredible strength. The queen, who had been watching from the throne, raised an eyebrow. She hadn't expected this girl to have such courage. Just then, a loud trumpet echoed through the hall, announcing the arrival of a new group of visitors. The massive palace doors swung open, and in walked a mysterious man dressed in a long dark robe. The room gasped in shock. No one knew who this stranger was or why he had come. The air was thick with suspense as the man approached the throne, his eyes fixed on Tope. "Your Majesty," he said, bowing slightly to the prince, "I bring news that will change everything you thought you knew about this girl." Everyone leaned in closer, eager to hear what the stranger had to say. Tope's heart raced as she wondered what revelation this man was about to make. Could this be the moment that changes her life forever?